Hey everyone, welcome back. Shedu returns once again. Actually, this is an updated version of a pretty old build I made nearly 2 years ago. That build was an alternative to Thermal Sunder Titania spam if you just wanted something else to try. It also worked well enough in SO and in Fissures. Today we bring you the updated version meant for Steel Path and ESO in a pinch. There are some caveats, so do listen closely. It easily cleans up Corpus and ESO due to forced Toxin procs from Toxin Lash bypassing their shields. Against non-Corpus, it can still work with Roar instead of Pillage, but you cannot spam Pillage in ESO and we need Venom Dose. So you cannot put Pillage over her 1 to avoid the forced cooldown from Samaris. Since we don't know what factions we face in ESO, you would drop the faction mod for more fire rate or heavy caliber. Toxin Lash normally triple dips even the basic primed Bane to boost the Toxin procs by 3.7 times. It would also triple dip Roar, once for the reload hit, once more for Toxin Lash, and then a third time for the Toxin dot it creates. Steel Path has a lot more predictable factions when you go into the mission and thus works very nicely there with Banes and Pillage spam. The wiki states Prime Firestorm does not work on Shedu. Keep in mind, this is referring to the AoE of the shots themselves, which consist of a projectile and resulting explosion. Prime Firestorm does in fact work on the reload explosion of the Shedu, which we can see here. It has a 20 meter radius by default and is boosted up to 28.8 meters AoE with primed Firestorm. It also hits through walls. In my original video, Prime Firestorm used to give 66% blast radius instead, which is why that thumbnail touts a 33.2 meter AoE. I would not normally recommend using the Shedu, as like all first in a new weapon category is completely overshadowed by later entries like the Bubonico. Better crits, status, magazine, fire rate, and base elements, but there are special quirks only Shedu can do, such as a gas build I once covered in the past, and this massive AoE DPS nuke build we showcased today. The first thing you should do is set your energy colors on Shedu to black so you don't blind yourself. The reload pulse of Shedu has 100% status and impact procs, but of very low damage. Its main gimmick is auto-stripping all sentient damage resistance and a 20 meter radius, but we don't care about that. No, don't put internal bleeding on, it doesn't work well. Also, no, Garuda Seeking Talons also don't work well here. Saryn's Toxin Lash allows us to buff the AoE to a respectable point and provide Toxin dots for scaling damage. Toxin Lash scales off both strength and your modded weapon damage, meaning the extra hit will do significantly more than the base reload pulse. The build is the exact same as in the past, with a single change. I have opted dropping a Toxin mod for primed fast hands. This reduces the delay before reload begins, allowing us to proc the reload AoE sooner for more damage. It also procs impact, meaning faster AoEs equals more crown control, meaning more survivability. The reload pulse takes full damage scaling from mods, meaning Amalgam Serration and Primary Merciless will give it 615% base damage scaling, and triple dip the Bane for 3.7 times more final damage. While the reload pulse ignores elemental mods, the Toxin Lash proc that piggybacks off it does not. Modding raw viral is still important since Toxin Lash scales off total weapon damage and includes the extra elemental damage added from Saryn's Venom Dose augment. The viral mods both add to the elemental scaling total as well as bonus damage against armor stripped enemies. Toxin mods will also double dip when calculating Toxin Lash damage. Token reload speed comes from Primary Merciless. If you were to get a Riven for the Shedu, I would strongly recommend reload speed to reduce reload intervals even further. Picking a Bane type will also massively boost Shedu's damage further, however pigeonholes optimal DPS to a single faction. Or you could have good DPS against two factions at once. As the main highlight of the build, yes, Prime Firestorm as I said works on the reload AoE pulse and pushes it from 20 meters to 28.8 meters radius. The Saryn build today is rather simple. It is a slight evolution of the original Saryn Shedu setup and features a single strength Archon shard to hit 332% strength. This is because we're using Pillage to full strip enemies with Corrosive Projection. It lowers the 100% strip requirement to just 328 strength. It also lets us dump range since Pillage also scales off duration, reaching out to 47 meters on this build. Pillage also has a loose line of sight check, so keep that in mind. I would also recommend plus 50% casting speed, whether it be from 2 Archon shards, Matter-Eye Focus School's power transfer, or dropping transient fortitude and relying on Molt augmented to free a slot for natural talent. I just chose Materite today. The second Arcane slot is completely free for whatever you want. I'm going to leave it as multi-augmented for even more DPS scaling from Venom Dose and Toxin Lash in my showcase, but there are other options I'll get into in a bit. Venom Dose works like a % corrosive elemental mod when held cast, and scales off Shedu's total base damage. Toxin Lash scales off final weapon damage, meaning it will include the extra corrosive damage from Venom Dose in its calculations, while also double dipping any Toxin mods on Shedu when creating the Toxin Lash hit. Prime Sure-Footed is pretty self-explanatory, as yes, Shedu's main shot AoE can stagger you without it, Rolling Guard to save you in a pinch, and remove status effects. This build burns through 660 energy a minute if you cast Pillage every 5 seconds. Arcane Energize alone is enough because Energize procs are worth 600 energy a minute. Energize itself requires energy orbs, and you get 4 procs a minute. That's 4 orbs or 100 energy, meaning you are regenerating at least 700 energy by proccing Energize 4 times a minute. Any extra orbs are a bonus, therefore we do not need Primed Flow or more energy related mods. Keep in mind, casting Pillage will not double dip shield gate on the setup, and you must wait for it to return, or uncast to make it return early if you want full shield gate regen sooner. Alternatively, you can opt for Streamline instead of Fleeting Expertise. This will allow you to double shield gate with the Decay Dragon key, restoring 75 shields instantly on Pillage cast and more again once it returns. Keep in mind, this option burns through 830 energy a minute instead, and Energize alone may not be enough. You would need 10 energy orb drops a minute, or roughly 1 every 6 seconds, as well as Energize procs every 15 seconds to maintain this build. Alternatively, you could take Zenurik's Wellspring, which is worth 300 energy a minute. Energize plus Zenurik puts you at a minimum of 1000 energy restored total per minute, which is well above the streamlined version's energy requirements. Finally, if you have access to it, you can run Arcane Steadfast and skip Zenurik when using the streamlined version. It is worth more than Zenurik's 300 energy a minute on today's build and is completely passive, granting you focus school freedom. You can bring whatever you want to deal with Acolytes, even the Shedu can do it. There isn't really anything special in particular, but here's a Glaive Prime build. Power Throw can replace this flex slot, which can also be Prime Fury or Gladiator Might if you feel you can chain it well. It does more damage on subsequent throws so long as you keep throwing it immediately. Prime Smite is extremely important to double dip the slash procs for 2.4 times more damage, but it does not apply to Acolytes. Amalgamorgan can shatter and Killing Blow to cut down on wind-up time. Volatile Quick Return is quite handy to boost Glaive Prime's AoE to 7.8 meters. Companion is whatever. General Panzer build. Perhaps because it takes at least 2 mag dump to consistently kill enemies on Steel Path, your Panzer can spread a fair amount of viral procs with viral quills on today's setup. Comfy for boosting Shedu's damage. Martyr to keep you alive, Devolution to keep itself alive, Radar, and a Vacuum. Using the build is super easy. Hold caster 1, caster 3. Now go around spamming your 4 and shooting Shedu into crowds. Direct damage is still quite strong since we are on a full strip and pure viral damage setup. But Toxin Lash and Venom Dose scaling will absolutely shred enemies on the main shot and let you maintain merciless stacks maxed extremely easily. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible. Like I've done with Citrine's Last Wish. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis, as well as the earliest Duviri content. You won't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.